What's up, heathens and demons, sinners and saints? Beautiful, blasphemous people. Welcome back to A Raging Atheist. Let me get on the right screen. I'm here with Nathaniel. Now, a couple days ago, I streamed real briefly, just getting up my feelings out there about Joe Biden, and I spoke briefly of Tara Reade. And I played Tara Reade's accusations, and Nathaniel wanted to talk about that. So I'm going to be asking questions. He's going to be giving. I'll let him tell you. So, yeah, and I'll let you go ahead, Nathaniel, and then whenever you're ready to pull that up, I'll pull that up.
Awesome. Hey, Knock, first off, thank you for taking the time earlier today to have a conversation with me about this, and coming to you and I having really having an understanding with this and how this is kind of going to go. So before I get started, can I show you something real quick? Because it's something that happened like during the live stream that Susan and I were just on with Richard, but I didn't know what it was. And then Susan was like, hey, check this out. And so I got my Apologia shirt in today. So
sweet.
Yeah, it's like tell Paul, like, hey man, I got a shirt of yours now. Give me something. No, as I retweeted this and I said that this is, conversations like this are tough, but they're also sometimes necessary conversations. Whenever this occurred, at least the allegations came to light, and saw a few things about them, and then somebody asked me to say why I do not currently accept the allegations as true. I went which I think you discovered after the fact, obviously. I created a document which has foundations really of honesty regarding this and honesty regarding how we reach those conclusions. If you want to put it up on the screen there so everybody can see it as well. I'm actually going to read from it verbatim because I can kind of tell it doesn't look great on the screen. So I'm going to read from it verbatim. It's also linked in the description. And this says, first off, that I am in no way making this political, and I refuse to even consider the conversation as such. To do so is to diminish the allegations and possible harm done. Even so, it has been noted that Tara will only speak with left-wing outlets and held her 2 interviews with hosts who support Bernie Sanders. We cannot, in good conscience, especially in the light of facts presented, ignore this. We also must not take the fact that she speaks only with those who support Sanders over Biden as a sign of a person attempting to create a conspiracy to damage Biden's presidential campaign. To do so would minimize the allegations and instead focus on a presidential race, thus ignoring possibly true allegations, which will cause more harm to the victim and likely lead to an even lower number of victims coming forward. We must, if we are to arrive at an honest conclusion, cast aside all presuppositions regarding political affiliation, opinions of the accused and or accuser, any personal gain we seek, even if just to attempt to damage the political aspirations of another candidate and or their supporters, or even to simply show we were right in our original conclusion. We must practice intellectual honesty and accept where the evidence, no matter how contrary to our own current personal opinion, leads. If the conclusion is opposite our current understanding, we must humbly accept said outcome. We must not be dishonest in our presentation or reception of any evidence provided. This includes avoiding taking quotes or pieces of journalism out of context in an attempt to build an argument with a weak foundation. We must understand all claims stand alone and bear their own burden of proof. While there may at times appear to be a pattern of behavior, it is essential we do not simply accept or reject a claim based on the outcome of previous allegations. We must always keep at the front of our minds an incredibly harsh truth. There is a possibility a woman was sexually assaulted by her boss. This and only this is the reason for our research. Do we know if what is alleged happened? Not at this time, and we may never know. This does not minimize the need for focused research, and any deviation from the evidence and facts presented is an affront to both parties and possibly could lead to a lifetime of pain. Finally, we must approach this in a way which will honor those who deserved more than the garbage they had thrown at them when they came forward. Christine Blasey Ford, Andrea Constand, Beverly Nelson, Gretchen Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Anita Hill. The list is so much longer, and many more don't come forward. We must acknowledge their bravery and condemn those who used whatever power they had to demean and silence these individuals, understanding fair judgment will be more than they were afforded. I believe, and I went over this with you earlier, that this sets an honest foundation.
Yeah, I agree too. And we discussed this because I really haven't looked into this because I wanted to kind of stay where I'm at, hear what you have to say, question you as you're presenting your case here. So we were going to do this originally this morning as a coffee stream, and I wasn't quite aware of like the circumstances. So like I thought that it would be a solidarity stream, kind of like let's talk about what was going on, and let's support the accuser. So I approached Nathaniel. Well, pretty much Ali approached him last night because I was busy doing stuff, and then we talked today. And my thing is that I work for, or I'm part of women's groups here, the Me Too movement, the women's movement here in my local area. I do work on this channel in regards to that. So in regards to that activism. So, I had trepidation because you want to take accusers seriously. And so I'm still there. Like I take Tara Reade's accusations seriously. But as I told Nathaniel, I don't know much about them. I played her accusations because mainstream media wasn't. And the only reason I know about it at all is because I do local politics here, and I worked for Bernie Sanders here locally. And I heard about it through that. And when it didn't get talked about, well, then I decided to play her accusations because I was pretty pissed off that Bernie quit. But I'm also about truth. And so when Nathaniel approached me with this, well, I'm like, I'm about truth. And based upon, what he just read along those standards, then I'd be willing to hear out what he has to say, ask questions, and try, make sure that this, because me and Nathaniel are friends. I didn't want to get into a stream to where I was going to be raging on a friend. So I think that we got to a place that we could do that. There should be no issues. He understands that I'm going to be asking questions, but I'm mainly going to be learning and listening to his evidence.
Yeah.
I think I have some background noise. I'm not sure if that's me.
Yeah, I don't know what I heard the ding, uncertain.
Oh yeah, that was probably my phone.
There you go. Yeah, my partner and I, Susan and I, take things like this very seriously. The allegations against somebody like Brett Kavanaugh, we researched those and found those to be credible. The information and allegations that were provided by somebody like Anita Hill back in 1991 found those to be credible. And we do what we can because we understand that less than 10% of victims come forward. We do what we can to align ourselves with the victim. In the same vein, and also to empower people in situations like this.
Well, and if there is somebody, that it would use this to, well, just for political reasons to begin with, for ill motives. You know, if you're trying to frame somebody that you don't like or you felt has done you wrong, then those people should be exposed. Now, again, I haven't seen any of Nathaniel's evidence. I'm still of the mind that, you know, you always support the accuser unless you have very credible evidence not to. So,
Yes.
you know, I want, and I also trust Nathaniel. So I don't think Nathaniel's going to come here and just present shit evidence. Nathaniel's a very intelligent man, and he, as he's pointing out, he's very cautious about these things. He's not some Trump sexist fuck. You know, he's on our side of the political aisle. So I wanted to hear him out, especially because I wanted to be factual, especially considering the fact that I did put her accusation out on my public air.
Yeah, certainly. And I saw a couple of questions there. Who is Tara Reade? Tara Reade. Tara is her middle name, I think. Her name is Alexandra Tara Reade. She goes by Tara. She
If you
was,
need to put that back up, just let me know and I'll put it back up, Nathan.
Yeah, I certainly can here in just a little bit. I think that it's, yeah, certainly. She worked for the Biden campaign when he was the senator of Delaware from 1992 to 1993. She was on his staff, I think, as a legislative assistant. And I will tell you this: that's a tough job. Working for a senator on the Hill is not for the weak-hearted. I know that. But that's beside the point. What has happened? So the reason that we approach this with, and of course, Ashley's kind of letting folks know a little bit there in the chat as well. The reason we approach this with, oh, we're going to believe this person, is because former Vice President Joe Biden has a checkered past with regard to not just kind of being a little bit creepy sometimes, but also touching people in a way that have made them feel uncomfortable. And women pretty much are there, is the universal there. And for good reason, because there's video evidence of this where you can see that it would make people uncomfortable, the way that he puts hands on shoulders, lower back, and things like that. Is certainly without a person's foreknowledge.
I think his own wife even came out and kind of justified it. Well, that's just how Joe is. That's how he was raised. And it's clearly like this has been an issue that's dogged him his entire career.
Yes. I think that, and this is my opinion, and it doesn't mean that it's what I'm going to say is correct and like morally right, but I think that Vice President Biden doesn't think that when he does that, it's a bad thing. I'm not saying it's right. What I'm saying is I don't think that he sees it as necessarily anything bad because he's not attempting to sexualize something. At least that's what I've gleaned from him. Now, again, I am not excusing his behavior, and he should fucking stop it. And he should never do it regardless. But I think that's his opinion. Now, Tara Reade, the video that was on, I forget the Intercept, right? It's very, very, as you shared it the other day, it's very difficult to watch. Listening to something like that is very, very difficult to even read it. I wrote down, and I said it's difficult for me to even write the words that she said because it is so difficult, because this kind of thing happens and it is awful. And I wondered, and other folks have I've had this conversation with other folks who are survivors of abuse, and I cannot tell you, I felt so I don't know the words to use, But it was the most difficult thing for me to say, I don't believe this person. And I still needed to do research. And it was only after the fact that I said that I said, I need to do this research. Or I'm sorry, it was only after the fact that I did the research that I said that. Now, what is alleged to have happened is that in between while she was working for Senator Biden, 1992 to 1993, he thought that she was pretty or something of that nature. She had nice legs, and asked her to come to an event in which she was going to be there for him and the guests and stuff at this event. And he asked her to pick up a gym bag or something of that nature. And when she tried to do that, he basically cornered her and forced penetration with his fingers. And then beyond that, even told her, yeah, thank you. I'm sorry. I didn't say that. I am.
No, I should have put it up before. I didn't even do an all out to my mods that this should be a sensitive stream. So moderators mod with sensitivity.
I'm
well,
sorry,
I mean, if they were here when I played it, they heard it for themselves. So,
and then said, I heard that you liked me. Like, come on, man, or something. I heard you liked me, and then said, you're nothing to me. This kind of stuff happens.
And I think what really hit home for me is when I heard it, I could hear Joe Biden saying it, especially the "Come on, man, I heard you like me." It's kind of the thing that he would say, "Come on, man." He says that a lot, but then again, they could have chose that for that reason. But that's when I heard the accusation, that's what really hit me in the gut and made me I always try to believe the accusers no matter what until, as I said, you get evidence against it. But yes. I think that one line there is like, I could picture Joe Biden saying that.
Yes. Yeah. Come on, man. That's a Joe Biden thing.
Yeah.
And I went and I looked her up. Because I was like, why is, and this is a question that when I Googled this, why is the mainstream media not playing this? It's a fair question to ask, especially considering the more than 12, I think up to 15 now, individuals who have accused the president of sexual assault, and the numerous individuals who accused Brett Kavanaugh of sexual assault. Why is the media not playing this? That is a fair question, especially when I went in and I couldn't find one.
Yeah, I even asked it of Valley when we were talking yesterday. It's like I think that's what struck the blow to me the hardest, was like the media didn't even really, the Young Turks reported on it, but the media didn't. And then Bernie dropped, and it was like, this is a serious allegation, and voters did not have the choice to even consider that, hey, there's this allegation. Maybe we should reconsider our vote right now. So, I mean, and that was like what made me angry about it was, here's this very serious allegation, and my guy is dropping the guy that I think that has a better chance of beating Donald Trump, and nobody didn't even know about it. And me and Allie was talking like, I really think that due diligence and investigating needs to be done. These allegations are very serious, especially if you're running for the president of the United States. That's a very serious allegation, and they should be investigated vigorously. and until the investigation ends, you should side with a credible accuser. So I think that's why we're here today. But I'll let you continue. Me and Ali, that was one thing that I was like really adamant about, is voters didn't even get to know about it.
Yeah. Not even Fox News picked it up, and you know how they feel. Not all of them, mind you, but you know, they're like the microphone whatever, megaphone for the Republican Party at times. So if not even Fox News picks this up, what's going on here? And oh, by the way, for clarity, I actually put this in your Discord, I think, like in, I don't remember, politics or something like that. So I was a delegate for the state of Texas this year for the Democratic Party. And so I actually voted for Elizabeth Warren, by the way. And Joe Biden ended up winning Texas. And I had a delegate to give. And I could choose between two people, or I could say no preference. And it was between Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden. And you can look at your Discord and you can see it. I gave my delegate. Can you see it? Can you find it? Is it in there?
I close it out because it'll sometimes make everything lag.
Yeah, I gave it to Bernie Sanders.
I haven't seen it though, but I will look at it.
You can find it. I said, "You're welcome, America." So that's just a little off topic. But if anybody ever tries to besmirch my good name and say that I'm just some sort of Biden acolyte, I'm not.
Well, yeah, and I didn't know that, and I don't know if it got relayed to you, but you know, that was one of my fears, is you know, I don't want some Biden smear coming at Tara Reade, and so that's why I was like, you know, when I was finally able to get through with our school meeting and I got to my keyboard, I messaged you right away, like, dude, I just really need to hear hear where you're coming from, the place you're coming from, because if I get backed into a corner and I feel like, you know, I really need to defend Tara Reade, then I'm going to go rage, and I'm going to do it on a friend, a man I respect, and a man that my audience respects. My audience is going to be like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah, I'm in a couple of like Thug Life videos or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You'll be in quite a few more eventually too.
That I had no idea were coming. So
I'm playing reverse psychology on Matt. So Matt started doing Thug Life videos just like that, you know, with Kent Hovind and Mark Drysdale, or me and Matt. So I'm like, all right, Matt, two can play at this game.
Oh yeah. And so I there it is. So I went and I did this research, and this is where it becomes tough. Not as tough as listening to somebody recall assault, but it's very tough to read these in some places, because it can again be kind of graphic. It's not sexually graphic, no, but to be kind of graphic with some of the retellings. But also it's tough to stay open-minded and then to make this decision, which we, again, staying with those eight foundations that I created. You know, I didn't create them, but I wrote them down for this in particular. So Tara Reade is among other things, besides being a former staffer for Joe Biden, she's also a writer. She writes. And she writes a lot, and she writes for numerous publications, at least has. She's also very active on Twitter. And so it's not difficult to find her, and it's not difficult to find the things that she's written. It is difficult to find some information that you think would be accessible, but it's not difficult to find her. April 6, 2019, she wrote something for Medium called "A Girl Walks into the Senate."
You want me to put it back on the stream?
I wonder if that one will that's the wrong one.
Oh.
Yeah, I got to change the. Oh, I should have put it on the. No, it's let me see here. And I'll actually, let me see if I can, yeah, I can just choose the application and do it that way. There it is. There you go. This is something she wrote again for Medium, and this is back in 2019. So this is last year, right? This is just over a year ago. And it's called "A Girl Walks into the Senate." My time with Biden's Senate office, and she gives a quote, and she does this a lot actually. If you go back and you can look up her stuff, she gives quotes that are, at the beginning to provide some, introduction. And then this is the beginning of this. And she said, I'm not a snowflake and I like to be touched a lot. I am an affectionate person. And then even in the next paragraph down, she says very specifically, I did not like Joe Biden's hand on me, not for the reasons you think. It is because I am the alpha in the room. Again, I like to be the one who chooses to enter my space in that way. And she goes on to talk about how we are sexual beings. And she even says very specifically, this is not a story about sexual misconduct. It is a story about abuse of power. It is a story about when a member of Congress allows staff to threaten or belittle or bully on their behalf, unchecked, to maintain power rather than modify the behavior. This was one of the first things that I read. And a few things stood out to me right here. And by the way, don't, for anybody that's watching this right now and thinking, wow, is this it? No, it's not. And the beginning of it is odd because please understand that anybody who faces assault, you don't need to justify why you're coming forward against somebody. So please don't think that. And if that's ever the case, please don't think that. But that's also why I think it's odd that she wrote that. But then when she goes on to say they were sexual beings, and then she says it is not about sexual misconduct. She's saying that this isn't sexual misconduct. And then she says very specifically, or I'm sorry, right above that, hand on me. This is not the same thing as what she said at the end of March. And this was last April. This is not the same thing. Now, I understand that over time, a person can feel more comfortable with opening up and actually saying what full extent happened. Yes, and I understand why. But this is not the only thing that she wrote. And that's why I think saying this right now so that it is important. I'm not saying, again, that she's lying. What I'm saying is this is a beginning of a trend.
All right. So, yeah, and before you move on, what I would say or ask would be, so this was last April. Everybody would have been talking about Biden running against Trump. And I'm not sure what she's done since she worked for Biden before, but could she be really trying to spin it in as positive of a way as she can, because this man is going to be running for president, but also because of the culture in DC. I know you know about all the NDAs and the culture there, especially when it's a male senator with staffers around. And could she still be wanting to have a career in politics in DC and not trying to rock the boat while trying to warn people that, hey, this man's going to be running for president, and he did do something, and he's done something, maybe just like kind of screaming it without screaming it?
It's a very good question. I understand why. I think what you will see is that she, since 1993, wanted nothing to do with politics. She left politics and was not in any way attempting to be involved. She, and I think that you'll see that over the course of a couple of different things. And again,
yeah, that was like the main question. So, or maybe then again, maybe she's got a family now. She doesn't want to relive this. She doesn't want to come out and say exactly what happened. So she's essentially putting it out there. Hey, something happened with Joe. Maybe you should know about it. But I know you do have more than this, so I don't want to get hung up on this. But I'm just, as the context of where we're at right now, that would be my question.
Yes, and that is a fair question, and I believe that you will see that as more evidence is presented, that that question will answer itself. And I saw that Shay asked a question in the chat: did she get assaulted before or after '93? It was while she was working for Senator Biden, and so that would have been in that time frame between 1992 and 1993. And something that's important to notice in here is how this all, how she got into politics. It says, I had been approached in college by a political science professor to apply for an internship at a congressional office. After working as an intern in Washington, D.C., and by the way, I will give you every single link if you want to put in the description so people can access these.
I can do that. After the stream, at some point, we'll get them in the description.
Sure. After working as an intern in Washington, D.C., I caught the political operative bug and worked on campaigns. I applied at then Senator Joseph Biden's office, and I was interviewed on the phone, flew back to D.C., and hired on the spot. Senator Biden walked past as I was being interviewed and prepared for orientation. He asked me a question, and then he said, hire her, with a smile. And then she says, I was beyond excited. I packed up my Nissan and my cats, which I know a lot of people in the atheist community have cats. So, that's a regular thing. Told my boyfriend goodbye and headed alone on the cross-country drive to Washington, D.C. I arrived at a place affectionately referred to as the nunnery, and she goes down to talk about how things are working and how she got there. And she talks about how this is akin to, and I can see how this is true. This is akin to, kids going out to college and the parents kind of being like, they don't know what's going on or whatever. Same thing. And then she actually, this is where she says, one day I got called to my office, supervisor for unknown reasons, basically thought that she was going to be let go, and said that Biden wanted her to serve drinks with some donors who apparently were all men. And I believe that because he, quote, liked my legs and thought I was, quote, pretty. And she, being a former model and actress, she thought, oh, well, like this is something, this is not out of the ordinary. And went in, and this is where she kind of goes into that she was touched by him, and that he would rub her shoulders and rub her down like her lower back with his hand up and down and things like that. And again, I know it's difficult to listen to, and I apologize for that.
And that's consistent with past behaviors that other women have come out with.
Yes.
So I mean, that's not really surprising. And I even if she is exaggerating the worst parts of it, I think
Yes.
most people know that about Joe Biden, that's
Yeah.
very, very likely to have happened.
I will tell you that I agree.
Not the whole part. Like I can't say the part about him saying that about the legs. I do find it kind of odd that here's a woman that's working for a United States congressman as a staffer, and she doesn't put any merit in her intellect. I don't think that's weirdly written to me. That stood out to me when you read that.
It's there are some unique phrases.
I mean, it was a different time back then too, though. So I mean, it was
Yes.
just women just put up with that shit in the workplace. So just the way she phrased it kind of stood out to me. I mean, you're a damn staffer for a congressional, a United States senator. I mean, however you got there, you're clearly intelligent enough to have the job. So I mean, that just stood out.
Yes. This was either 1 year, between 1 and 2 years after the Anita Hill trial, which is important to remember because Senator Biden was the chair of the Judiciary Committee and rightfully so received and still receives, rightfully so, an incredible amount of criticism for his handling of that and the things that he said about Anita Hill and his piece of shit, garbage, quote unquote, apology within the past year. Yes.
Yeah, he apologized when he decided to run for president again, and after Anita Hill and women's groups were starting to really go at him, he finally apologized. And you're right, it was shitty and it was very insincere.
Yes, and this is, and then she says, I went to another senator's office for help. This is after she felt some incidents had happened with Joe Biden, with him touching her. Now, mind you, in this article she wrote last year, she did not say anything about anything beyond him rubbing her shoulder and lower back, and up and down her back. I do not want to mischaracterize what she has stated here. And she was discouraged from meeting with the chief of staff because they would just think we were, quote, all on our periods and complaining for no reason, end quote. And there is validity there with respect to situations that occur. And then she says, I went to another senator's office for help and met discreetly with the staffer that I knew. At the time, I was volunteering for the 25th anniversary of the RFK Memorial at the VIP tent, and a staffer for Senator Kennedy tried to step in on my behalf. And then I went to Senate personnel for help. No one helped me. I was moved into a solitary windowless office and told to leave. I was fired, or should I say I was forced to resign. No one would interview me on the Hill for any position. I could not locate anything regarding. Now, mind you, those would have been very personal, but still. And then she goes on and she says some things here.
Before you move on, that does ring true to me. The culture that was exposed with the Me Too movement when it did hit Washington, and I'm not really sure. I know a bunch of the Senate congresswomen in the House came together with a bill, but I don't think anything was ever really passed or resolved. There was a push to get to reveal who had NDAs, and I'm not even sure if we got that. I can't remember if we got that or not. But this culture does what she's speaking of. Is a culture that has been dominant in Washington, D.C. for quite a while.
Yeah, Washington, D.C., Hollywood. You think of like Harvey Weinstein, right? This is absolutely prevalent and widespread. And so I believe that if somebody would have come forward in Washington, that this is likely a reception that they would have received. And she goes on and she says that did not feel competent, self-esteem plummeted, things that I absolutely understand that. And then she says, I wish that I could say there was a happy ending, that Senator Biden apologized, and that he helped to make amends. But he did not. I do not even know if he realized why I left. He was protected by his chief of staff from unpleasant events like a young king. This would have been a reference, obviously, to Martin Luther King Jr. And she published a story in the Union as well, but that's something that's not applicable to this. So this is fairly consistent with what we knew before March, and what was told to us before March. Well, most of it is. Back in 2009, she wrote an article. I don't know if it. Yep, it sure does. She wrote an article, and this is for the WIP. This is a women's empowerment group. She wrote an article entitled "Defying the Rule of Thumb: A Domestic Violence Survivor's Story." You may want to put the trigger stuff up on the screen again. I don't know if you can get up there, but this is hers. This is what she wrote. She starts this without a quote, mind you. She says very specifically, I should know what an abuser looks like. After all, I was working for then Senator Joseph Biden, who sponsored the Violence Against Women Act. Now, in that sentence, or those two sentences alone, it makes it seem as though she is calling Joe Biden an abuser. But she is not. She is, in this context, praising him for sponsoring and ensuring the passage of the Violence Against Women Act. The reason that she says that, as will become evident in this text, is because she should know from her dealings with folks working with Joe Biden on this, what an abuser looks like, the things that they do, the things that they say. That is the actual context. And that will become clear when this is read. Because she said domestic violence. And by the way, this is a praise of Joe Biden in the Violence Against Women Act.
Yeah, well, Joe Biden did good with that act.
Yes.
That's one thing that people just can't take away from him.
Yes. Without a negative mention. Without mentioning anything. Says, but domestic violence is an equal opportunity offender. It was something I read about and discussed. The things, where you think that you're in a bubble, you're a privileged area where these things can't happen to you. And I understand that. She said, as the plane descended into Washington, D.C., my Siamese cat, Cleo, meowed loudly from under my seat. Cleo had been through all my many moves, men, and a couple of Los Angeles earthquakes, which I get that. As the lights of Washington, D.C. reflected in the plane's windows, the excitement of my new job as a Senate staffer lay ahead of me. We have an issue, Nakasuchi. In her other article, she gave a whole different story about how she got into Washington.
Yeah, I see that.
That does not mean that she is lying about anything, but it is important to note.
Yeah, sorry, it's my daughter's shot time.
Oh,
yeah,
no.
that's definitely a discrepancy in stories about a situation that has nothing to do with the Joe Biden event. So it does lend to her credibility. As I told Ali, people do lie a lot, and especially somebody working in DC. I'm going to expect some elements of being able to lie, but I would say that this is kind of a red flag right here. But just kind of where we're at, though, she's clearly trying to be a a political writer, so she's writing political commentary, and that would lend to trying to advance a career, trying to have access, trying to spin things positively, so you still have access, because in 98, 99, he would still be a senator, and probably at that time had risen quite well in the ranks, has probably run for president once. We know he's lost. He's got a record of losing. But I would say it's definitely a red flag. It's definitely a red flag.
That was a nice kick right there. And okay, I'm going to read the rest of this in totality, and I feel it is necessary that I read the entire thing. And I'm sorry that it's going to take a couple of minutes, but it is important that I read the entire thing. And it is difficult to read, but I'm going to do it anyway. She said, Bill Clinton had just blasted into the presidency. I made my way every morning to work on the underground Senate subway, relishing my new life. I breakfasted to the New York Times, dining at the hip Adams, Morgan neighborhood restaurants. I don't live in Washington, D.C. Have no idea what those are. I don't know. She said, in the spring, my friend Stephanie insisted that I go with her to a birthday party. Worked out of the DuPont Circle apartment. I had no idea this would be the night that would forever change my life. And she talks about the party, and she says at the end of this paragraph, I found a smiling 6'4", blonde, Nordic-looking man. I grabbed the nearest water gun and fired back at him in a playful way. The next time that I saw Tate, that's this person's name, it was a crisp Sunday or spring day, and the cherry blossoms were about to bloom. By the way, up here in Portland, there are a lot of cherry blossoms as well. If you have the opportunity to ever see those, they are amazing. She says, as he slid up to me smiling, I stopped, startled. Hi there. He says, I was hoping to catch up with you. And he handed her a rose. At first, Tate's attention was peripheral to my life, but he had a job with a congressman and understood life on the Hill. He was doing all of the right things, and eventually I found myself in a relationship with him. Often I would seek solace from the demands of my job at the Folger Shakespeare Library across from the Supreme Court. Tate did not like Shakespeare or the theater and would snicker at my ability to quote sonnets. Later, his aversion to the arts would surface as disdain. Tate soon invited me to take a weekend trip. As I discussed the prospect with Stephanie, I was hesitant. I don't know, maybe it's too soon, I said somberly. What could possibly be holding you back, she asked. You are single and he adores you, and it is your first real trip. Just let go. My misgivings, unbeknown to Stephanie, stemmed from a recent blow-up with Tate. After I showed up late to one of our dates, anger flashed across his face as he shouted at me, were you with someone else? Tell me now. I had actually gotten lost on the freeway, and I tried to explain. After shoving me, he apologized. And again, I apologize for this.
I took the trigger warning off the screen because it was blocking the screen a little bit. Sensitive material, y'all. So we'll express that. And Allie is in the chat. She's taking care of the chat, so we're good.
Yeah. As the sun descended warmly on the Potomac, I sat in a rented convertible while we drove toward a Virginia cabin. That night, he fixed me dinner and served me champagne. The next day, the sun was warm as I rested on the deck, brought over a perfect yellow swallowtail butterfly and gently placed it on my knee, careful not to rub the powder from its wings. The irony of his gentleness struck me later as I learned of his horrific brutality to me, Molly, and others. And this is consistent with abusive behavior. Later that spring, a friend told me they could use some help, some volunteers at the Robert F. Kennedy Memorial event at Arlington Cemetery. Excited, I accepted. Robert Kennedy was my hero. I asked Tate to accompany me, but he emphatically refused to undergo the compulsory 3-day FBI background check. The day of the memorial, I worked with Kennedy staffers in the VIP tent where the family was sitting. A handsomely chiseled JFK Jr. breezed by with Daryl Hannah. It was a somber but elegant event, and I felt sad Tate had missed it. Later, at the request of Ethel Kennedy, a few of us scraped candle wax that had dripped on the graves. My friend Shay scraped hard at the tombstone as she said, "Break up with this loser. He wouldn't do the background check. Forget him." When I saw Tate later that night, I found myself unable to confront him. It was then that I felt the first real glimmer of unease. 3 days later, I received a handwritten thank you note from Ethel Kennedy, but I tucked it away, choosing not to show Tate. Soon, I received an offer to work on a governor's race in California, and I almost accepted. Tate kept me up that night, pleading with me to go with him while he managed the congressman's campaign. I agreed, and we moved to the frozen tundra of the Midwest. It would not even last a full winter. And this is the first time that he hit me. We had lived in the Midwest all of 2 months. The subject of the fight was unremarkable. The damage to my nose and jaw was not. But I was pregnant. We were about to marry and had just gotten a puppy. There are always red flags when you are in a relationship with a batterer. I managed to miss every red flag and probably a few flares. I thought I could make it better. I could be on time instead of always late. I could be more open emotionally, more organized, more of what Tate wanted. I began losing myself in his constant criticisms. Then, with the days of flowers, kindness, and intimacy followed, the bad days faded away. But the unease lingered and soon shifted to panic. Holy shit. One day, I found Tate huddled, upset, and looking dangerously unstable. He says, "Take the puppy away now and find it a home, or I will kill it." I scooped up the shivering puppy, asking what had happened. He stared at me blankly. "Don't you understand? I will kill it," he enunciated, his voice rising. "And please have an abortion. I can't stand things that are helpless. I can't be a father. I would just want to kill it." I felt nauseous. I closed the door and my heart, staying away from him the rest of the day. It would not be until later that year I would find out he had killed the cat of a previous girlfriend and committed other unspeakable monstrosities. The next day, I found a home for the puppy and booked a flight home to California. Months later, Tate was fired from his job at a retail company where he had worked after the congressman's campaign ended for moral misconduct. Getting me back became his new project, showering me with flowers, cards, and endless phone calls as my pregnancy advanced. I finally accepted him back into my life, wanting our child to have a father. The birth of my daughter, Molly, stands out as the best day of my life. Nothing could trump, I always have difficulty saying that word, sorry. Nothing could trump looking into her ocean blue eyes for the first time. Tate always seemed enamored with her. However, within the next 3 years, Tate would beat her, threaten her, and commit incredible horrors against both of us. Our quiet routine was shattered when Tate lost yet another job and was unable to find work. I immediately took a job with a California senator, but dreaded being away from Molly. One day, while I was taking a shower, I heard Molly's piercing scream. When I ran into the room, Tate handed her to me roughly and sneered. I just shook her. She would not shut up while I was trying to watch TV. Yes, Clay, this is Tara Reade's writing. I clung to Molly, comforting her while I checked for injuries. In the coming weeks, Tate threatened to kill himself, Molly, and me if I left. Then one night in February, he almost succeeded. Another inconsequential fight escalated. He slammed me against the wall repeatedly. I saw blackness and slid to the floor as he squeezed the air from me the wood of the futon splintering under his rage. He screamed that he had killed the cat, and then I heard Molly's toddler voice screaming, "Daddy, no," before I faded into unconsciousness. The next morning, the red marks on my body had become bruises. I went to work hoping the cover-up and scarf would conceal Tate's handprint outlined clearly on my neck. My coworker, Blanca, looked up at me, her eyes registering the source of my pain. I hurried away, not wanting attention or a possible scandal. She came to my desk and said, "Let's go get a cup of coffee." We never made it to Starbucks. Instead, she walked me into the victim witness program at the district attorney's office. Our freedom began with pictures of my face, neck, back, and a restraining order. The divorce began, and a custody battle ensued. Tate pled guilty to assault. Tate's late night stalking became so bad, we had to leave the state. His parental rights were terminated in court. I received news that Tate's DNA was collected by the FBI for 2 missing women's cases because he was a, quote, person of interest. Tate's profile was that of a sociopath. With the help of battered women's advocates and law enforcement, as well as new identities for both of us, Molly and I made our escape to the cleansing rains of the Pacific Northwest to start anew. Years later, as I accept my diploma from law school, I look into my daughter's jubilant face in the audience as she yells my new name. I am free. That night, Molly and I celebrate our good fortune. Cleo curls around us, purring. The rain gently mists over the Seattle skyline, and we are finally no longer afraid. I apologize for having to read that, but it is important.
Well, but before you tell us why it's important, so this is something that I've dealt with a lot, and everything that you read there, I stood quiet and I absorbed it. It's very indicative of abusive behavior, and in a sociopath, but the stalking really struck home. I've known people that have went through that same exact experience. So that actually makes me empathize and feel more compassion for her at this point that we're at right now. But I'll let you continue.
One of the important things here is she discussing why she left Washington. There's no mention of Joe Biden. There's no mention of him touching her. There's no mention of being basically fired from a political campaign. There is only that her fiance or future husband wanted to go to follow this congressional candidate to the Midwest. Which is the opposite of what she said in a 2019 article. And in fact, there's no mention of anything else. Not only the fact, of course, that she describes completely entirely how she got to Washington in the 2 articles. I have so much more and really wanted to, I decided when I was going to get to this article, because it is very difficult, but it's also very important. I need to say something because some folks may not know, I worked for Beto O'Rourke, and I also nearly worked for Elizabeth Warren for president. When you go to work in Washington, D.C., and I apologize for not saying Washington in the proper context earlier, especially for a senator or a congressperson, they have what they call a vetting process. The vetting process, it's fairly rigorous. I know that.
Well, I mean, just to become an FBI agent, it's fucking almost impossible. They came all the way down to North Carolina and interviewed me, my brother, for my aunt trying to get into the FBI.
Yeah. One of the things they would do, speaking of the FBI, is an FBI background check. They have to do that. Which is why it makes no sense that this person named Tate, who became her husband, would decline an FBI background check to go to an RFK memorial event. He would have already gone through one because he worked for a congressman. That doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know. Also, there's no record any of this fucking shit happened. To be completely honest with you, like I cannot more than this say, literally none of this is anywhere. And I saw Shay's apologetic in the chat that maybe it's metaphorical changing the names, but no, she's very specific. It's not metaphorical. She said they have new identities, they have new names because this Tate person who passed an FBI background check was somehow wanted by the FBI. And did she leave because she was kicked out basically by Joe Biden, or was it because she just wanted to leave to go be with her boyfriend? Or is it one of the other 17 places that she said she left for? I am irritated and aggravated at this because she has different stories for everything. And I'm going to, and I apologize for being emotional about this, but this is how fucking important it is to me that people that come forward are listened to, because when there's inconsistencies like this bullshit, which by the way, the WIP is an incredibly important organization for empowering women around the world. And something like this is written, I can tell you, Nakasuchi, there is zero evidence any of this, except for saying she worked for Joe Biden, actually happened. Tate's DNA was collected by the FBI. That somebody worked on Capitol Hill was even as a staffer.
Well, I mean, if she was in some kind of witness protection program, though, you wouldn't be able to find it, though, right?
Yeah, that is correct. But she said that she changed her name, right?
Yeah. She said that she has a new name.
Yeah. Well,
So, I mean, that would be my question. Like, so is she going by the name now because she's talking about what happened with Joe Biden, or is she published under the same name and kept the same name the entire time? And the other point that I would make is, I mean, this article is written in what, like 2009.
2009.
You would think that, I'm sure people have investigated her story, and it would have been exposed. I think that it would have been exposed. I'm not sure though. There seems to be inconsistencies, but I'm not sure if it takes away from the credibility of them.
She has the same name that she had, and her name hasn't changed.
Well, I mean that's a huge gap right there. Yeah, I mean she would need to, I think, explain that, and that's why, I mean, I think that it should be investigated, definitely, because I don't think that if Joe Biden's innocent of it, that he should have that shadow following him. In fact, if I was Joe Biden and I was innocent, I'd be screaming bloody murder, demanding it be investigated, demanding that his name be exonerated.
I think the reason that the media didn't pick this up is because of the things that we're looking at right now, because they're not going to.
It could have been because there was a concerted effort to destroy Bernie Sanders, that Bernie Sanders became enemy number one, more important to beat than even Donald Trump.
Do you remember what I said in one of my 8 pillars of honesty here?
Yeah, well, I'm just saying that's a literal. I mean, there's a whole bunch of Bernie Sanders supporters right now that feel like the media did a concerted effort to destroy Bernie Sanders, to not give him any breathing room, and that Bernie Sanders was coming after all their pocketbooks, and they all ganged up to destroy him. I mean, I think that that's a very honest argument.
I think that we should look at the evidence that is presented by the accuser and not bring up conspiracies, as was in the one of the 8 foundations of honesty that we talked about at the beginning of this, which is linked in the description.
I don't think that's a conspiracy. I mean, that's how I see it straight up. I mean, I think it's fairly obvious that you go watch MSNBC, the supposed far left outlet, and everything they say about Bernie Sanders was a smear campaign.
Okay, well, Fox News didn't bring it up either.
Well, I mean, Fox News didn't want Bernie Sanders to win.
No, this is about Joe Biden.
Well, I don't think that they're scared of Joe Biden.
I disagree with you on that, but I'm not going to talk about politics or make this political or speak about conspiracy.
Oh yeah, I agree not to make it political, but I'm just trying to put that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you're saying that this is why the media didn't pick it up, and I'm just offering a different possibility. I don't deal in absolutes very well.
Sure. This is consistent with reasons media won't pick things up, like from Jacob or Wall and stuff like that.
Journalists should do their fucking jobs, right? They should investigate.
Yeah, and that's why Spotlight came to light, because they had tons of credible evidence. Recommend the movie, by the way. So we
go ahead. I got to step away just real quick. Check on my daughter. I'll be right back.
Yeah. And again, if you were not here at the beginning of this stream, I am not attacking an accuser. I am not defending somebody who is accused. I refuse to do those things. And if you would like to see these things we put in place, I wrote these things days ago. You can look in the links in the description. It is important. So she has her resume, basically. Curriculum right here. And it goes through the things that she did in her life. Okay. Seattle University, School of Law, 2004, first place. This, by the way, is from her now defunct website. I think it's alexanderreade.com. Yeah, alexanderreade.com. Sorry, my neighbors are making food. It goes through alternative dispute resolution, National Certified Domestic Violence Prevention Trainer, FLETC Homeland Security, liberal arts, political science, bachelor's, Antioch University, Monterey County Leadership Graduate, 2009, founder of Grace's Pet Food Pantry, which is, as you can see, serving pet owners in need. 2014 to current, producer for Clean Comedy, for a Cleaner World Tour with comedian Colin Moulton. That's her brother. Executive Director, Animal Friends Rescue Project, Pacific Grove, California. Legal Community Services Manager in well, if you're from California, you know how to say that one. Snohomish, I think, County Center for Battered Women, and that is, I think it's in California. Then YWCA Monterey County, Seaside, California. Domestic Violence Unit, King County Prosecutor, Seattle, Washington. Victims Advocate, Unemployment Law Project, Seattle, Washington, 2004. Legal intern. Special Kids Crusade, Inclusion Specialist, Hartnell College, Salinas, California, 2009, 2011. Oh, it's in Washington? Okay, thanks, Ashley. I appreciate that. I did not know. Adjunct Instructor, ACE Program, or adjunct, depending on how you want to say it, Social Justice, Antioch University, Seattle, Washington, 2007, 2012. ongoing online visiting professor for degree completion media. This is what she did in the media, basically. Soul Vibe, she did something on a radio station for 2009, 2013. Monterey Bay Blues Festival, MC, June 2011, 2012. Legislative aide, State Senator Jack O'Connell, legislative assistant, former U.S. Senator Joseph Biden, Washington, D.C., special projects she was on, legislative intern, former Congressman Leon Panetta, Washington, D.C., her volunteer experience, Monterey District Attorney, expert witness, domestic violence prevention, which she does currently, presenter to trainings for the Washington State Coalition Against Domestic Violence, Robert F. Kennedy Memorial, and assisted with coordinating the 25th anniversary event, PAWS Pause, Seattle, Washington. This is her. This is her. Pretty, short form resume, basically. Except, feel free to Google this stuff. Feel free to put the timeline together.
And I highly agree that the fact that she said that she got a new identity and that her name seems to not have changed, that's highly suspect in that story.
But feel free to Google 99% of this stuff and try to find her. Try to find her at these universities, because you can do that.
And you're saying that you can't find her there?
Nope. Let me do it right now. I can show you on Google. Try to find her in King County, Washington, working at the domestic violence. Don't do anything.
I mean, and I'll grant, I know politics, and this wouldn't be the first time somebody planted a sexual assault accusation against a congressman trying to ruin a campaign. It's something that I really guard against talking about, because I feel like we should hold our own to higher standards than we hold the other side.
Yes.
And that, because it's an easy way to dismiss an allegation. But at the same time, it is a trick of the trade, and it is something people play dirty politics. Now, of course, I don't think Bernie Sanders had anything to do with it, if that would be the case.
I agree.
But I think that people play politics in Washington, D.C., and it's a very, very dirty game. Yeah. That being said, I haven't seen anything that would tell me that the event didn't happen like she said recently. But at the same time, I definitely get what you say, that there are reasons why media would be hesitant to talk about it if there are glaring controversies in the story. If she did indeed make up having new identities, that's but I think that's why it should be investigated thoroughly and quickly resolved, because I think people should know who they're voting for. But I think even given this and given that atrocious behavior, because it is hard to listen to give it as it's all true. Ultimately, though, he's far less a monster than Donald Trump. He probably actually thought Tara Reade did like him, that it was consensual. And I'm not justifying the behavior, but compared to Donald Trump, who's a monster, even given the allegations, I would still have to vote for Biden. There's just really no choice for me. But that's my thing, though, is that's separate from these allegations and whether they should be regarded seriously. I
agree. I vote for Joe Biden. I reluctantly said that a month ago.
Me too, and I've been fairly consistent with that. I had a moment where I was doubtful, like, I don't know, man, but that was just, Bernie had dropped out, and I was pissed.
This is her, because and again, just for anybody watching, this is not because I want to besmirch somebody, or because I want to make this political. It is because due diligence. And by the way, once there's other stuff that's important.
There's definite red flags, without a doubt. I can definitely see how. There's definite red flags, and we're talking about maybe the most important presidential campaign in our history, right? I mean, it's that important.
Yes, it affects possibly the life of my partner and your daughter.
Without a doubt, and so many people that we know that are in the chat right now. I mean, this is everything right now.
Yeah. This is her bio that was on her website, which again, providing these links to Nagasuchi so you can put them in the description. Or if you want, I can pop it in the chat. Can I do that?
Yeah. I have
Oh,
no issues.
yeah,
I think I don't know if you have to have a wrench or not. I don't.
yeah,
Allie's in
you haven't,
control.
since you haven't given me one, jerk.
I
There you go. This
know
is
we have rules now about it. I have
right.
honoraries.
I know. This is her bio from her now defunct website. It's been defunct since last year. Um, she says this: I was born in Monterey, California. As a baby, my parents moved to the Midwest. Spent most of my childhood living on a farm in northern Wisconsin. Um, while I was running around on those 80 acres, which is a lot, so good for her, I came to love riding horses, fishing, downhill skiing, and being in nature. At 12, I qualified for the Junior Olympics in downhill ski racing and trained for 3 years. My family situation changed, and after their divorce, I moved to attend high school in Athens, Georgia. I became a professional model and actress at 17 years old, and I moved to Los Angeles to train and act in classical theater. I performed in such playhouses as the Wilger Theater, basically.
When you come to a stopping point, I do feel like I need to clarify something. So whenever you get to a stopping point.
Sure. Theatricum, the Celtic Arts Theater, the Globe Playhouse in Los Angeles, not to be confused with Globe Theater. I did commercial work and was cast as a dancer in the film La Bamba. In college, I was accepted to be an intern for then Congressman Leon Panetta. I worked as a political operative in campaigns and as legislative aide for then Senator Joseph Biden. After the birth of my daughter, Michaela, I moved to Seattle, Washington. For 3 years, I worked as a victim advocate for the King County prosecutor. I graduated Seattle University Law School in 2004. Since I have worked in nonprofit management and on other creative endeavors. Recently, I have performed again acting scenes from Shakespeare in small theaters. I also performed at Renaissance Fair, fencing and poetry scenes from the production Dangerous Beauty. I've also taught college and younger students. I have taught college students public speaking, acting, and social justice. Throughout my life, I have been active with animal conservation and animal rescue. Currently, I am producing a comedy tour for Colin Moulton. That's her brother again, called Barefoot Comedy. I am also working on a creative writing project. I live in Northern California with my cat and my horse, Charm.
And that's still Tara Reade?
Yep, that's her. Except there's a lot there that's not true.
All right, so before you get into what's not true about it, sorry, Nathaniel, I just wanted to clarify when I say I'm not trying to dismiss Joe Biden's behavior when I say that he's not like Trump. I'm just saying from a place of knowledge, like Trump literally raped his first wife, and if you read that report, what she said before she was paid $100 million never to talk about it again, it would be atrocious, and you'd be horrified. He had a serious rape allegation from a 16-year-old girl as he was running for president. And numerous times that he walked in on the Teen America beauty contest, teenage girls naked. So, I mean, I'm not trying to dismiss what Joe Biden is accused of here, but I'm just saying he doesn't compare to fucking Trump. But I'm sorry, Nathaniel, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. Now, mind you, here again, this is a public website. Or it is now defunct, but again, the Wayback Machine on the internet is phenomenal. Somebody who had their identity changed would not be able to write these things, and also would not be able to be a public figure, and would not be able to act in the movie La Bamba.
That is something that I do know. Yeah, if you're in a witness protection program, they want you to keep a low profile, not a high profile.
Yes.
Also, I know somebody that's in the federal witness protection program.
Well, now you just got killed.
I knew somebody that was in the program. I don't know him no more.
Yeah. And you won't be in La Bamba, which makes sense because she wasn't in any of them. I appreciate an individual in our conversation the other night going and looking all that up. I did not know there were multiple La Bamba movies.
Neither did I. I only know what's the one probably everybody knows.
The one. Yeah, IQ, by the way, it's me. Um, uh, again, look, these things are easy to look up, to attempt to verify. But again, yes, somebody who's in a witness protection program, and as Ashley wrote, you also wouldn't be able to work with your brother on a comedy tour. These things simply don't happen.
Yeah, because Tate would very easily be able to find her and her child. I mean, that's why they would want you to keep a low profile. That's a glaring red flag. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, I can see why the media doesn't jump on it. I still think that the media should have probably put the allegations out there just so people knew about them. But I think they should have done due diligence and probably exposed this. Like I said, this is the first time I'm hearing about it. You just hear about it in progressive circles, and you hear the allegation, but you don't hear this nuance. So, I mean, there's definite fucking red flags, and it's something that I'm definitely going to have to consider, no doubt. No doubt. I mean, that's just, it doesn't make much sense that if you did get put into a protection program, that you would carry on that same life.
Yeah. By the way, I appreciate the scroll at the bottom. That's.
Well, I forgot to change it. I've been trying to change them intermittently.
No, you're good. I think I've seen two of them. That this one is, yeah. But
I just figured that out the other day.
Yeah. This is an article that she wrote again for Medium in December of 2018. Remember the article that I read earlier? She wrote in April of 2019. This one she wrote in December of 2018. Those are important. And if you don't remember the particulars, I happen to have notes. And again, all these links are going to be either in the chat, or they will be in the description of this video. So if you're watching this after the fact, go and read these and listen to these and make your own decision, obviously. She wrote this called Bring on the Light in Medium in 2018. And as before, what we saw in April, and thank you, Ashley, for that. We saw in April of the 2019 article, she began with a quote. She does the same thing here and says, change your words into truth and then change that truth into love. That's from a song by Stevie Wonder. And then she begins this article with an incredibly odd opening and says, what if I told you everything you learned about Russia was wrong? What if I told you as an American citizen we have been fed propaganda to further a certain political American agenda? What if I told you we are actually, quote, the bad guys? First off, I've said that before. We're not the good guys a lot of time. And that we're on the wrong side of history. And then she gets in, and then this is the paragraph that matters, and it's right here. When I was in my early 20s and just out of college, I began my journey into politics. I left that political work behind a few years ago. Remember, this was written at the end of 2018. I also resigned my position and took myself out of the Washington, D.C. Beltway. Can't open CPA. If you're in Portland, we're in Portland together and we should meet up. I'm sorry. And took myself out of the Washington, D.C. Beltway. Why? Because I had been sexually assaulted by Joe Biden. That's not what she wrote. She said, first, I started as an actor in classical theater, an artist and writer before Washington, D.C. This work in the arts has always been my first love and best vocation.
That's fucked right there. I mean, because she clearly wrote this. She left because of an abusive husband.
No. This is the third one. She said one of them because she resigned or was forced to resign, but Joe Biden probably didn't know why she left.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, you're right.
The next one was because her boyfriend, who ended up being wanted by the FBI, I love IQ. I'm sorry, IQ. Where they went to the congressional campaign in the Midwest. And then this one, she quit for two reasons here. Because she loved the arts and wanted to be an actor. And she, quote, saw the reckless imperialism of America and the pain it caused throughout the world. And then third, I love Russia with all my heart. Sorry. I love the people, the history, the culture, and even my attempts to learn the language. I could not stand to watch the deception and xenophobia that came from my own American government. It is so sad and destructive to revile another country or culture for no reason but economic gain. I should point out, I agree with the last two sentences completely. But this is contrary to what she has said. This says nothing about an assault. This says nothing about even being uncomfortable. This says nothing about anything. It's simply because she was not okay with how the United States treats other countries, very specifically Russia. And this is, she then goes on to write some propaganda. She said, President Putin scares the power elite in America because he is a compassionate, caring, visionary leader. President Putin has higher approval ratings in America than the American president. I don't know if that's true, but I mean, probably wouldn't surprise me. That guy's not very popular.
Well, I mean, if she wrote it recently, it probably is now because a lot of Trumpers.
Yeah. President Putin is beloved by Russia and he is not going anywhere. Instead of being ensnared in the recent political intrigues, and America is trying hard to set that trap, President Putin is keeping a calm focus on his own country's development and future without America. And she says, to President Putin, I say, keep your eyes to the beautiful future, and maybe, just maybe, America will come to see Russia as I do, with eyes of love. To all my Russian friends, friends, happy holiday and happy new year. That's odd.
Wow. So right there, now she does have motive to lie.
Yes. That's why I did this one right here. So I had this planned out, just so you know.
Yeah, I'm figuring you did, because I'm just sitting here like, what the fuck?
Oh, I'm not done yet. I'm sorry, we're not laughing at.
No, yeah, I'm not trying to laugh. Like, yeah. I didn't expect that. Like, I'm trying to stay true to, like, you know, respecting Tara Reade's accusations here, but I'm seriously asking what the fuck at this moment.
Yeah. And that's not all that
that's a lot to process right there. No shit. I mean, that's problematic. So I agree with not hating Russia's culture and people, and I also think that it's, I mean, you can't look at Putin and say, wow, that's a good man right there.
Yeah, no, you can't. And this article right here was written March 26th of 2019. Also on Medium, by the way. It's called Who Let the Cats Out, which is a strange take on the song. And she does a Chinese proverb. And at the beginning of this, she starts with a Russian person. It's a spokesman for Russian President Vladimir Putin, whose statement in the response to the findings of, quote, no collusion by the Mueller 2-year investigation. I will remind everybody that the Mueller report does not say that.
Just real quick, Tioga, I have been going really hard at Biden. The conversation is because Nathaniel wanted to point out discrepancies. I am still holding firm to the fact that I think that Tara Reade's accusations need to still be credible. But I mean, Nathan just threw a curveball. I'm not going to lie. My mind is a bit reeling from what we just read. But that's the point of this discussion. I am highly, highly critical of Joe Biden here. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, so am I. And I've said as much, and I even gave my Texas state delegate vote to Bernie Sanders. So anybody that tries to say that, why don't you investigate Biden, go back and watch the rest of the video. Which I knew.
Yeah, I am not dismissing Joe Biden here at all. I think that Joe Biden, that these accusations definitely need to be investigated. But Nathaniel's presenting his case here. And Nathaniel's not a right winger. Nathaniel's not I wouldn't call him a centrist. I think that you're probably farther left than I am.
Oh, I'm pretty
But
far left.
I agreed to the conversation because Nathaniel's a friend, and I had played Tara Reade's allegations. So he wanted to present a case, and I said that I'd hear him out. I'm still not swayed to the fact that I don't think that we should respect the allegations, but I think that there's a lot of red flags here, and what I just read is very problematic. I'm not going to lie, but I'm still on the side, Nathan, that I do believe that you've got to take the accusations seriously, and people should investigate this thoroughly and get some conclusions for this, because I think that it shouldn't be hanging over Joe Biden if he's innocent. It shouldn't, and if this was maybe some Russian attempt, once again, we're expecting it. It's going to be happening. Then it should be exposed. And yeah, that's pretty much where we're at this point.
Yeah. And I agree that, as I mentioned, and we've gone over this multiple times here, yes, take every single accusation very seriously. And as I said at the beginning, you can read, we've linked this in the description.
I'd say up until now, it was red flags. That statement about Putin's greatness really is. When did she write this right here? That part, Nathaniel.
March 2018.
So 2018.
Yeah, and this one is written in 2019.
All right, so you're reading a different one now. All right, I'll let you continue.
Yes. Yeah, I started a new one. This one is newer. This is the finding of no collusion, which, again, I will remind people, the Mueller report did not say that, and Robert Mueller very specifically said, if we viewed that there was no collusion, we would have said that. So she says, this is talking about Democrats, by the way, and there's a few different things here that I think are really, really important. It has been many years since I walked the halls of the Russell Senate building, the smack of my heels causing shin splints. After a while, as I clipped along those marble floors, I would often show people around the Senate, and they would look around the austere chambers and say things, wow, if these walls could talk. I would like to say, first off, that's very good prose. She gets in down here. She says, let me be clear. I worked for all Democrats my entire past career. And yes, there is a secret or two, but hush, I don't vote and tell. Basically, she's saying I voted for some Republicans or whatever. I believe in universal health care. She's propping herself up, the right to an affordable education, environmental conservation, helping our national. I worked hard on all these issues. And she says this. I do not know the extent of election interference by another nation, the claims of misconduct that have been hyped, watered down, and twisted until the trust in reliable sources confuses the original question. Are both our countries bad actors? America continues to employ its international policy of interference, say in like Syria or Venezuela. Fair points. Usually our interference masked with the cries of spreading democracy. And when the country refuses to spread its diplomatic legs for America, well, then violence begins. America masks its spreading democracy rhetoric behind the real desire for those fossil fuels or other economic gain.
I mean, so a lot of progressives, I mean, we are growing more and more aggressive in our prose and in our attacks, because I think the economic inequality is just so vast and so just great and disparaging at this moment. So I think a lot of people are becoming radicalized, and I don't know. It seems like she has definitely went from a Joe Biden staffer, which would have been I would consider a very moderate, maybe even right of moderate Democrat, to now she's farther left than I am, without a doubt, from what you're reading.
Yeah, and she says, "I'll keep pushing."
Which I
for
respect. I mean, because I love lefties, so I don't love Russia love because I there's some serious issues with Russia, and to deny their interference in the last election, I think is it just doesn't even really jive with Putin. Like you can't know Putin and say, oh, he couldn't have possibly done that. I think he did, and I think we do, and I think everybody does.
Yeah, I agree. With that being said, if somebody likes Vladimir Putin, I don't care.
Neither do I. I think that you just gotta kind of gloss over a few things about the man that are facts. You know?
Yes. If you want to like Russia, that's fine too. But there are the reasons for the red flags. She also, never mind. I'll get to that in a second. But so I am not watching our country with naive or star-spangled eyes, right? Keep pushing for America to be America could be. America needs no more xenophobic rhetoric. When the anti-Russia, anti-Putin propaganda starts up, personally, I shut down. I love Russia. I love my Russian relatives and friends. And like most women across the world, I like President Putin a lot. His shirt on or shirt off. She has accused Vice President Joe Biden of sexual assault. And I cannot parse these two things. I can't put them together as the same person.
Well, the shirt on and shirt off thing is that's propaganda. I mean, that's what they push that picture out. I mean, I can't tell you how many fucking times I've seen that fucking picture of him on the fucking horse.
Yeah, I know. See, feel free to go back and listen to everything else. Democrats have a collective opportunity after the Mueller report to change the discourse and stop blaming another nation for our own voter apathy at the voter booth. We are apathetic voters. That's fair. But to blame this nation.
I mean, but I can disagree with her on this, and it's not going to really, for me, take away from. I mean, sure, she could be doing it. She would have to be an asset. So, like, you would think that, she would be coming up on radars. I don't know.
I don't think that I don't think she's a Russian asset.
Well, I mean, if these accusations are made up and Russia's the angle, the motive, then either she's acting on her own or on the behalf of Russia. I mean, it is. A person can really like Russia. I don't know. I'm trying to. I'm trying to take it all in. It's a lot of information.
I know. And that's why at the beginning of this, in the second, the number 2 pillar, it says that I'm in no way going to assume or even consider that this person is part of a vast conspiracy. And I'm not going to. And I wrote these before I started reading these things, by the way.
So what do you think the motive is underlying the action of lying about an event if that's what she did? I've seen a lot of red flags, and this Russia shit's got me like, that's a little far left for me. But I haven't seen much to say. All right, so she's lying about that, outside of the fact that she did change her stories a couple times. But I think that's understandable given the fact that people want to advance their careers, they want access. You're talking about a woman in a man's world. It's changed vastly, but that's happened over the last couple years more than anything, I would say. Me Too's done a lot, but then Me Too hasn't, because nothing's been done in Congress. But I haven't seen anything that would say, okay, she's lying about Joe Biden. I would say that there's red flags. I would even give you that. All right, I might understand why the media didn't run with it. Maybe it's not because they were scared of Bernie and didn't want Bernie to win. Maybe there are some definite red flags here, but I haven't seen anything so far that has changed my mind. Like I should doubt her story that the event happened. I would like her to explain the changes of stories. Because I would like to hear about that, definitely, but I'll let you continue.
I'd agree. near the end of this article, the part that I've highlighted, which is very, very, I think, important. She says, whoever the Democratic frontrunner is for the 2020 presidential run, Beto O'Rourke, the Joe Biden and Stacey Abrams ticket, Kamala Harris, or Bernie Sanders, we should urge these candidates to elevate the national conversation to more important matters. I first off disagree with part of that. But if she is accusing, this person of sexual assault, I don't understand, and this is my own personal opinion, I don't understand why she put Joe Biden, Stacey Abrams ticket and said you need to elevate the national conversation together. Because why would Tara Reade trust Joe Biden with another woman? That's my personal opinion, and it does not. I'm not saying that has anything to do with, but for me, it was a red flag because there's no mention of this. She's elevating Joe Biden. This is last year. This is before she comes out with these allegations, and she's elevating Joe Biden. She puts his name next to Stacey Abrams without any reservation. This is the person that she would say touched me inappropriately, and then in March come out to say he sexually violated me. To me, I don't understand that. I'm not attempting to excuse what have possibly happened.
It could be all right. So,
oops, sorry, I closed out an accident.
Again, she could quite clearly understand that Donald Trump is a monster. She could be just purely against Donald Trump, which again would, not make her some kind of Russian asset, because I think that Russia would be interested in having Trump as president again. So it could definitely be, though, that she didn't think that Joe Biden would actually win. And Joe Biden had, we spoke about it briefly, but Joe Biden has a history of gaffes, of fucking presidential campaigns up. He never does well. So she could have just thrown him in there as a list of to kind of continue that career, continue that access. And then as Joe Biden became the front runner and she saw how close he really is to getting the nomination, then that could have propelled her to come out and be just honest about what happened. There's definite red flags, but I'm trying to put out like why, maybe why a year before that she would lump him in there, because like even I didn't really the moderates considered Biden as their front runner from the very beginning, but I always considered him a joke. I never thought that we'd actually get here. So she might have thought the same thing, having worked for the man. I don't know. You make a good point, though, that if she does, if he did do that to her, then you would think that she wouldn't want to put women into that position. But again, a lot of people thought Joe Biden would be Joe Biden, and he was Joe Biden. It's just the party came around him and coalesced. And I think that's, when did she go public with the accusation? I'm not even quite sure of that.
The sexual assault?
The sexual assault, yeah, because I only heard about that in the last 2 or 3 weeks, maybe.
March 25th or 26th. It was around the same time that the stimulus package was approved.
All right, so that would be about the time that it was pretty much going to be Joe Biden, right? So like she could have had an emotional reaction. Oh shit, he's going to be president now, or he's going to be going against Trump. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud at this point. I'll let you continue. I'm trying to justify it, and I'm not trying to like just say I'm going against your arguments either, Nathaniel. I'm
No, I
just
know.
trying to play devil's advocate and try to maybe understand and empathize with the position. And we stated that from the beginning that I would be doing that. I think that
Yeah.
you have presented several red flags that if people are going to be talking about this, that they should be at least be aware of. So I'm glad that we ended up doing this. I'm glad that we talked about it and we understood where we were coming from. We've only had one real major disagreement, I think. A lot of red flags. I'm not going to lie. Yeah, I hope it gets investigated and we can get a lot of answers to some of these questions that you're raising here.
Yeah. Also, the lead follower get out of the way is commonly attributed here to Thomas Paine, but it's tough to know that you said it first. But anyways, the picture above this one right here. Sorry, I was really fast. Is of me before moving to Washington D.C. After the article about my experience working as a Joe Biden staffer came out in the media and the pro-Russian blog I wrote went viral, there was an immediate brutal fallout attack on me. I received threats on my life via phone and email. That's bad. Never do that regardless. A thread started on Twitter calling me a traitor. I lost income, freelance work from the negative viral tweets. A writer from The Atlantic, former Biden staffer Richard Painter said things, and people called her a Russian agent, which I have not done, and nor will I. I guess Joe Biden's campaign figured rather than address what happened, they would just have a supporter call me a Russian agent, and she's, saying things.
And that's I actually put a lot of credibility in that. I mean, it's like I said, like I could disagree with her her obvious admiration for Putin, but it would seem like that's something that instead of address the accusations, Biden would do is try to smear the accuser because he's so close now. He's not going to be the number 2 guy this time. He's going to be the number 1 guy. So I mean so far what you read right there, I could, I have to say, like I could agree with what she's saying right there.
Yeah, I don't. She's defending herself.
Well, what she's saying about a Biden campaign or a concerted effort of Biden to point out, hey, she's got some really pro-Russian leanings here. Look at this. Don't look at the accusations. That to me is signs of guilt. I mean, it takes, and that's I think the thing that's really lacking here is Joe Biden isn't screaming his innocence. He's trying not to talk about it. I think he's denied it. I mean, Ali told me because I was like, I haven't even heard him deny it. I think he's denied it, but he's not really trying to talk about it.
He did deny it, and his campaign said, and I have that article. We are being objective. Please, if you're in the chat, if you're watching this later on, we are being objective. I put something in the chat, Tartan Snowflake, and B. Please feel free to go and read that. And it is sometimes difficult to read.
That is in the link. Or I thought you were talking about the first eight things.
But also, yes, we put these 8 foundations of honesty is kind of what I call it. Probably not the greatest name, but it's in the description as well. That's what we're doing with this, how we're approaching this honestly. But also read that she wrote in 2009 and try to verify any of it. In this article, she's talking about how she was attacked, right, by the Biden campaign. And then for whatever reason, she switches over to Russia again. She says, back to my story, what Joe Biden did in his interactions with me is not really much different than what happens in other workplaces. I have not told the whole story of what occurred between Joe Biden and myself. After the threats, I will not tell it here either. I don't know what she meant by that. Certainly, I want to think that things like what she said in March we should have better safeguards in place than that. And I believe that what she said there, it's true. Ms. Biden is supposed to be a champion of women's rights, and watch how the media coddles him. Is pushing back against the norm of objectifying and minimizing women at a time when there's no space or support for that. When I reported Joe Biden's misconduct toward me, my mother made me document it as I was so scared, cost me my job and ability to find more work on the Hill afterward. And again, it is important to note that she has written multiple, and I apologize for my really loud roommates. They are impossible of speaking at a tone that's not yelling. She has said she has given multiple reasons as to why she left Washington. There's also a cat. All the way from Joe Biden not knowing why she left, to leaving because her boyfriend Tate wanted to go and continue working for the congressional campaign that he was on, to she wanted to leave because she wanted to go pursue her career in acting, and she didn't like what America was doing overseas. And my position, by the way, is as a feminist and as an activist and as somebody who empowers women. Do you think my fucking girlfriend would be with me if come on. Is that I take things like this very seriously. And that people who have come forward publicly in the past have been ridiculed and their lives have been destroyed when they have credible evidence. And they deserve better.
Well, and that's my position is believe the accuser. I do think that false accusations are a huge problem, but you've got to be able to prove that the accusations are false. And I saw Mr. Parker's comment a little bit ago, and that's my position. My position is that I think that this should be thoroughly investigated. I think it should be thoroughly reported. I think that everybody should know about it, just like we knew about Trump's accusations, just like we knew about Kavanaugh's accusations. Everybody, I mean, we should know about these things. I think that Washington, D.C. needs vast reform to protect the women that work there. And I think that the behavior that she outlines Joe Biden of having is believable to me. Despite all the red flags, the behavior she says that she experienced with Joe Biden, and we know that she has experiences with Joe Biden, I believe them. Now, the sexual assault, there's a statute of limitations. I think it should be investigated. I think all of what Nathan has laid out should be investigated. This man is running for president of the United States. I think we should know who we're voting for, and we should have a clear decision between him and Donald Trump. We all know who Donald Trump is. We need to know who Joe Biden is. That's my position. But there are definite red flags that Nathan has raised here. I'm not going to lie. I've heard him out. I told him I'd be open-minded. I am. There's a couple things. That Russian thing was like, holy shit. But that's still my position, is I think that this should be thoroughly investigated and thoroughly reported on.
I agree. Jeez, my fucking roommates. With what she said about what happened in up to this point, prior to her two interviews in the end of March. What she alleged Joe Biden of is completely in line with everything that we have heard about Joe Biden. It is
The sexual assault is the odd thing out, and I would hope that if he did this to Tara Reade, then he's done it to other women, and hopefully if he is that type of predator, then other women will step forward and validate Tara Reade's story, because I think you have pointed out some red flags that journalists are going to be very skeptical of jumping on the story. I think they should. I think everybody should know about it. We should have known about it before Bernie Sanders dropped out. And I think that, they should. I would have wished that the journalists would have been on top of it, investigating everything, because obviously you found it, Nathaniel. So you would think that people would have found it. So I don't know. It's just I want it to be thoroughly investigated. I don't think that it should be swept under the rug. I don't think Joe Biden should get a getaway free card just because it's Donald Trump on the other side. I think that we have to have our integrity in this moment more than any other. And if we lose that, then we lose everything.
And that's absolutely true. She supports Bernie Sanders. That's unimportant. She does not support Joe Biden. That's unimportant. And it's not one lie, Shay. It is a mountain of lies.
Well, there was a few lies. I'm going to be completely honest. There was a few lies, but again, when you know sexual assault and the dynamics that it does on your mentality, you add in that she's a working woman with a career. She's trying to keep access. She's doing political articles. There's a lot of nuanced dynamics here that I think victims of sexual abuse to a point learn to have to lie. They have to tell them everything's okay, or life is great, or I fell down the stairs. So I know you pointed out holes in that story, but I still even want to give her that. Like I want to believe her on that, because that's my mentality is I need it to be proven wrong. Now there is some glaring holes in that story. I'm not going to lie. And I think that if she's put herself out there now, that it should be investigated. And I think that if it happened the way she described, then it should be fairly easy for a seasoned journalist or investigator to find those holes. What's wrong with that story? To find Tate, interview him. I think that the investigation should be very, very thorough.
Yeah. Because there's the things, the things that she said in that article in 2009 have no foundation in reality. The places she said she's worked, no foundation in reality. Except for working with Joe Biden, the reasons that she left the campaign, multiple reasons. There is every reason to doubt what she is saying. Like you said, like one or two things. No, we have articles full of lies that is not founded in reality, written over the course of decades. And then the reason, by the way, brought up the Russia thing is not because I care that she likes Russia, but because now she's saying, oh, I just was writing, I was just writing a novel the past 2 years, and I was reading some Noam Chomsky. I said his name wrong, but whatever. And that's what her excuse is, except for she's been writing basic Russian propaganda for decades. So that's a lie. But last year, she supported investigating Joe Biden for Burisma. Like, what? No, that's, again, it's something else without foundation.
I would agree there. I think the Burisma. I think unfortunately we're going to hear about that a lot in the next year. But yeah, I don't think that there's any foundation to believe that if you look into it even slightly, it doesn't take a lot of research to know there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to
And
like Joe doing anything, like yeah, he definitely got his son a job.
yeah, which by the way is perfectly fine. Um, this is one of the, now casting aside what you think about the Krossensteins, which you're well within your rights to say. I agree. Um, this is
I have no idea who that they are. Honestly, I've never heard of them before.
oh yeah, good for you, Shay. Know what I'm saying is, she said the only reason she cares about Russia is she was reading some Chomsky over the course of the past 2 years for a novel she was writing. But that was a lie as well, because she's been writing about her love for Russia and the Russian family and all that stuff for decades. I was only pointing it out that it's a lie. I've never said she's a Russian asset, and I do not appreciate being taken out of context.
That was kind of that might have been my fault because I like leaped on that like that could be motive. Just trying to process everything. So if I imply that in any way, like again, this is all new information to me. I'm processing, um, and trying to be honest and vocalize when I have to, but I need to listen and process. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do with the stream. I think it's been what we've agreed to from when we talked earlier. And again, Nathaniel is this he's a smart man. I don't I know him. I think that we're friends at this point. I was nervous coming into this because I didn't want to sit here and start cussing out a friend. But I'm trying to be very open minded, and I'm still trying to find empathy and compassion and try to maybe some understanding because I don't want to dismiss the fact that it could be true and all of that. So yeah, continue, Nathaniel.
I cannot state this enough. I want to be wrong.
Yeah, and you've stated that several times.
I don't, in the way that I say that, I don't want to be wrong and to come find out that somebody was sexually assaulted. But I don't want to. It hurts me in ways I cannot describe to even say the words. I do not believe the person who says they're a victim of assault, whether sexual or otherwise. I cannot explain how difficult this is. And I'm good at explaining things.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Especially your shit when it comes to the Bible. So, and your shit when it comes to politics. You've been in that. I think you ran for office, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's a hard. This is this is a conversation a lot of people run away from, and I'm not gonna lie. Once I learned the what this conversation was going to be, I ran away from it at first. I was able to come back to it, and I don't like to run away from any conversations. These are the hard conversations people need to be having. And I hope that journalists and investigators are doing their due diligence. We need to know who this Democratic nominee is, and we need to know who. We need to know if that he's being accused of something he didn't do. I think that it goes both ways there. So you got to respect the accuser, you got to believe the accusers, but you also got to respect the process and understand that Joe Biden is innocent until he's proven guilty. I think that it should be expedited, and they need to have their best people on this. Everybody should be. They should be running away from it. But yeah, I'll let you continue, Nathan. I'm gonna fill my soda up. I'll be right back.
And we read this. She said, went to the Senate personnel for help, and no one helped me. I resigned, or what I say, I was forced to resign. I was told to look for another job. In the aftermath, I did not feel competent or worthy of anything. With my self-esteem plummeted, my career nosedived. Yeah. when this happens to somebody, yeah, that's he says what started with promise and possibility ended because some prominent senator decided that he liked my legs. I was now sad and lost and moved on. Article in April of 2019, she said that I wish I could say there was a happy ending, that Senator Biden apologized, helped me make amends. He did not. I do not even know if he realized why I left, which is two different things. Were you blacklisted or were you not? Did he know why you left or did he not? It is not consistent with truth. It's just not. I don't know who this is, and so I'm not going to give it any credence. This is what we talked about earlier, where how did she get to Washington? Because stories matter. Following up and saying things matters. Consistent stories, especially in something like this, we're talking about the possible future president of the United States. Following up on something like this, it's hard to say, like, it's two different stories. She said in one of them that that Joe Biden knew why she left, and the other one that he didn't. Having consistency matters here. And I'm having difficulty myself putting this together because it's such a difficult thing for me. This is where earlier, I showed you this one earlier, not where, where she said, I drove across the country, told my boyfriend goodbye, and headed across the country to drive to Washington, D.C. And then in 2009, I went over this again. She says two different things. In January of 2020,
well, I mean, I think a lot of career people probably beef up their bios, exaggerate their bios. Again, like Washington, D.C., it doesn't surprise me that people that work in D.C. lie. It wouldn't surprise me that journalists that write about D.C. lie. People lie. I think that it does show some glaring inconsistencies in character. But again, it still could have happened. And,
absolutely.
So, yeah, I mean, it's like, I could imagine how hard it would be, because I do know that you are a feminist and that you do, you stand for women's rights, and you're as far left on these issues as I am. So I know that this must be hard for you. That's why, like, when you first approached me with this, I just automatically assumed that we were going to have a conversation in solidarity about Tara Reade, and then I found out, oh, wait a minute, we're going to have different positions. Let's put the brakes on this and let's talk about this. So I think that you point out some definite, she lies. Yeah. I think she lies. I think that there's some red flags, especially in the story that I want to empathize with her most on, which would be the abuse from her ex-husband. That there is a definite glare there when it comes to having a new identity and being put into witness protection. So yeah, I mean, there's some definite glares there. There's some definite things there. And right now, like, I would think that we have time before we've got a long way off before the convention. We have time now to get to the bottom of these things, to find out if there are other people out there that have had similar experiences, if they're actually investigating, talking to the people in DC. I don't know. I think that we have time to get this story out, see what the truth is. I think that the truth should come out, as much of it as we can deem. Now, these kind of situations are very hard to prove. it's he said, she said. I mean, you look at what happened with Roy Moore. You look at what happened with Kavanaugh. They're very hard to prove. They're very hard to get people to talk, especially when you're talking about Washington, D.C. But I think that people need to be on it, because we need to know who Biden is, and people. I think people are hesitant because it is Donald Trump, and you don't want anything that's going to hurt. But like, this is out now. Like, Donald Trump's going to be using this. This is going to be talked about. They need to get the information. They need to get to the bottom of it. And if you think that Donald Trump's going to get nuanced about this, he's not. and if you think he's going to like care about all the allegations against him, there's a very good chance Joe Biden won't remember in the moment. Like, Joe Biden hasn't shown very good memory. So I don't know. I'm still firmly right there. Like, I believe that her story needs to be thoroughly investigated and taken seriously until it can be dismissed with actual evidence, or at least not enough evidence to say that the event happened, but it should be investigated, and news people should be talking about it. But I think we'll just probably disagree on that. And I'm going to have to actually process a lot of the stuff you've put out there. I'm going to probably have to go back and watch this, Google some of the things you told me to Google, especially with that original story about the abusive husband. Yeah, I mean, it's
everything.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look into it. And that's what I agreed to coming into this. I'm going to be very open-minded. This wasn't going to be this. We both agreed we did not want a stream that was going to be, blame the accuser, or that was going to be just not, that there was going to be evidence not to believe the accuser. That solid evidence is not going to just be speculation, conspiracy. So I think we're there. I mean, you've provided a case that there's reason to doubt her word, just not reason for me right now to doubt that the event happened. And it's just because Joe Biden's Joe Biden. I think a lot of people have said that creepy Joe thing, there has to be more there. There just has to be a little bit more. Maybe not, maybe so, but maybe this is the first of many that's going to come out. I would rather we get to the bottom of it now than in the heat of battle with Donald Trump and more accusers start coming out at that point.
Yeah. Well, I don't know why. I don't.
There's a lot of questions here. There's no doubt.
Yeah, everything she said about her life is a lie. Every single story is different. What happened in her life in Washington? Every story is. This is like whenever I read the Gospels. And it's like, what happened with her life in Washington? Depends which gospel you read. What happened with how she got to Washington? Depends which gospel you read. What happened is the reason she left Washington? Depends which gospel you read. It's every single story is different, and some of them are written within 6, 8, 10 months of one another. Was she? Was her fucking husband ever part of an FBI fucking manhunt? You know what I mean? Like,
well, and Jay, it's this isn't about the allegation against Joe Biden why she went into witness protection. It was a past husband. Could it be possible, like, say the past husband thing happened a long time ago, and she just wrote about it in a more
it would have been after
current context.
After she left Joe Biden. Would have happened after that.
So I mean, she has a child with the guy. So I mean, how old is her kid?
Well, it depends which gospel you read.
Yeah, but that would be something for me to look into. I mean, so and again, like, I would think that journalists would be looking into all of this stuff. My main thing is, why not still report on it though? Like, why not report on it? Like, you have an accuser, and then you have an accuser that have glaring holes in it. Fox would jump on that narrative quick. All the Roy Moores and Kavanaugh arguments. coming from a Democratic nominee for president, Fox News would jump on that. But more progressive sites that are supposedly for Me Too should be jumping on the other narrative. And this has caused a split in the Me Too movement itself. Leaders are fighting over this. It's very public right now on Twitter. Rose McGowan pretty much called Alyssa Milano a traitor for endorsing Joe Biden. So this is already becoming a very serious, divisive issue within the left of this country and within the women's movement, the Me Too movement, that I think is very vital and needs to proceed and needs to go into every industry. You talk about Washington, D.C., but look at the food industry and the restaurant industry, and you're going to see a haven of sexual abuse and sexual misconduct. And it's just the atmosphere of them places. I've been in a lot of them, so I think that they're very, very powerful movements that need to continue. And this issue right here is tearing it apart from the inside quietly because nobody's fucking talking about it.
Yeah. One of the reasons, by the way, that the media doesn't take things like this is because you don't give credence to things which are not credible. You just don't do
but
that.
They had no issues with the Roy Moore accusers, with the Kavanaugh accusers.
They were credible. They had external evidence of that.
I would say that a person that was a staffer is credible. Like, she was around him. It's very possible that it happened. That's a very credible accuser.
Yeah, no, the main thing for me is that when her original, now mind you, in 2009 when she wrote, she said she gave Joe Biden praise for the Violence Against Women Act, and said that
that's the one thing that I give him praise, because I usually, if I'm going to talk shit about a man, I find something to give him praise about, and that's usually it with Joe Biden. That act right there helped a lot of people. It could go a lot farther. It needs to go a lot farther. We got a lot of work still to do, but you got to give him credit for that act.
No, yeah, and yeah, but that's not really the point of that. It's that article was about abuse. And all she did with a person who has a history, even if we didn't know it at the time, the person that was against Anita Hill.
That's a huge red flag. Yeah, I agree.
The person that has touched people in an inappropriate way, not in the way that she currently is saying, at least that we are aware of, but has done these things. In 2009, the article she wrote, she praised, in an article she wrote about assault, an article that she wrote, a very difficult to read article that she wrote about assault. She only praised Joe Biden, and then made one of the multiple stories as to why she left Washington, with no mention of being kicked out, basically. It was about following her boyfriend. And I hate, in my mind, it is the most, I cannot think of anything more difficult that I've done in recent memory than try to parse who I am as a person, as an advocate for women and women's rights, with my girlfriend who literally, and say that I don't believe this person. But I don't. And I don't fucking like Joe Biden. I'm not I'm not defending this guy. I just, there is not anything that I got.
No, I don't think that you're. I can see that this is painful, and that I don't think that you're sexist. You're not trying to just dismiss her accusations out of hand. It's not like some right winger just putting out bullshit talking points that they heard on Fox News. You very evidently have reason to question her story. You've given me reason to question her story. At least her morality, I guess we could say. But again, I'm not to the point to where I can just dismiss the accusations. I think that the accusations remain valid just because I can see Joe Biden doing it. And that's a personal thing with me, but also it's a thing about power, and that hopefully these powerful men can no longer get away with it, and he would be held accountable for it. Unfortunately, I do believe that people are going to be really scared to delve deep and to possibly prove it true, because then at that point you're left in a void against Donald Trump, whom people have made the enemy. He's the enemy. He's the enemy of number one right now. He's
Nakasuji,
got to be defeated. Yeah, please go
I got to
ahead.
interrupt you. If this is true, I don't fucking care.
Yeah, me neither. Neither do I.
Care if I have to look at this, okay, and if this affords me 4 more years of Donald Trump, I don't care, because I'm being honest. Because I'm defending somebody who, in this case, if this allegation is true, would have been sexually assaulted. I do not care that if that means 4 more years of Donald Trump, well, at least I'm being honest in what I'm doing. I will not vote for that motherfucker.
Oh yeah, neither will I. But again, like I said earlier, like, it's apples and oranges. Unless other accusers come out with much more serious accusations of like fucking rape. Donald Trump's far worse on this issue. Far worse.
Yeah,
treats women worse. He's an atrocious monster that has raped and sexually assaulted and boasts about it. So like, our choices right now are Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And like I said at one point, we know Donald Trump. We know who he is. Now we need to know who Joe Biden is. And I would like to hear him be more aggressive in defending himself about this. He gave the denial. I did watch it after Ali told me about it. But I would like to see him be more aggressive, because I, as an innocent man, if somebody accused me of sexual assault, I would be screaming bloody murder. I mean, it would not stand.
No, I understand that, and of course he has people that would instruct him, in the ways of doing this if he has campaign.
Oh yeah, he's got people telling him not to talk about it, definitely.
But I encourage anybody to go and research this stuff. Look at this is her curriculum vitae. Go research this. Try to find it. Try to find any of it.
I'm definitely going to do that. When I have spare time, I'm gonna look back at the stream. I'm gonna take notes. I'm gonna do the things you suggested I do. I'm gonna Google. I want the truth. That's why I had this stream. I don't like to run away from the truth. I want the truth out there from all aspects. We know a lot more today. I know a lot more today than I did earlier, and I know a lot more today than when I just blatantly put her accusations and her own words out there. And like I said, if I was going to do that, I've got to be able to see it all. So I've got a lot of information to process. Shit, we've been going 2.5 hours now. And it's a lot of information. It's not just some dismiss the accuser thing that you're trying to do here by any means. I see that fully. You're being very delicate, very, very aware of the situation here, I think, and you're passionate about this, and you wanted to do this, and I'm glad we did this. I think that friends can disagree, friends can be not get to the same place, but still respect why we're there. You obviously have reasons to believe and to feel the way you do.
Yeah. It's not that the memory may have been altered. It's that she's lied about everything, not just Joe Biden. I encourage anybody to go and look at her bio and look anything up. Look up the Junior Olympics from when she was younger. They're on the internet. Look up any of this stuff. I understand how abuse. I have PTSD. I wake up in the middle of the night sometimes and I don't know where I'm at. And I see things that aren't there. I understand how this works, but I don't have this. I don't lie about my entire life.
Yeah, like I admit shit that I shouldn't admit. Like people never know about me, and I'm like, oh yeah, I did this and that, and now.
Yeah,
I get you. Like, there's definitely things about her background that seems suspect. Again, I think a lot of people embellish their backgrounds. It might be one of the main reasons why I've never been successful in life, because I just don't do that. But no, there's undeniable that she is capable of lying. I just don't know if she lied about that, and I think that's what needs to be resolved as much as we can. Again, it's very hard to resolve these issues. It's very hard to get solid information. We all saw it with Kavanaugh very publicly. Saw it with Roy Moore. But at the same time, I think that they should be. Hopefully, they are. But again, the only place that I've seen it really talked about was on the Young Turks, and the Young Turks gave their progressive slant. So, right now that's what a lot of people see, and the people that know about this story are only getting that side of the story because Joe Biden and his people aren't talking about it, and the media is not talking about it.
Yeah. Susan, I don't remember anything happening the other night when I was in the middle of the night. I'm sorry. I don't know if I woke up and said anything or anything. I am sorry. I just saw her. She wrote something in the chat. I didn't know that. I didn't know that I had an episode the other night. I'm sorry. I again despise that I don't know. I'm sad that I can't find. It's not that I'm. The main reason why this upsets me is not because I believe this woman is lying. The main reason is because people that come forward in the future are going to be affected by this, if I am correct. It's because there are every single minute, seemingly, women in this country and all around the world who are sexually assaulted. And and less than 10% even come forward at all. And when they do, they're ridiculed. They're not believed. They're said, you shouldn't have been drinking. You shouldn't have been wearing that skirt. They're told that they're the problem instead of the victim. Conviction rates are even lower. Not just conviction rates, but being told, oh, he's a good boy. He was at Stanford. He's on his swimming team. He's not going to go to jail. We're going to mess up his life without any consideration giving to how he fucking raped somebody.
And that's this. I am biased. I don't want a rich elite fucker getting away with shit. You see it all the time, right? Rich white people can pretty much do anything in this country. I feel it. Like this is such a complex issue, Nathan. It's so complex.
But if she is lying, and I currently believe that she is, if evidence comes forward, I am happy to retract everything that I have said. And in fact, the way that I say I hope that it does makes it seem like I hope she was sexually assaulted. So I'm not saying that.
But you're hoping that you can believe her.
Yes.
Because if it happened, that you need to be able to believe her. I hear what you're saying.
And I don't care about Biden's presidential campaign. I really don't. It's not like he'd be the first president to ever have been accused and or have committed sexual assault. We got a motherfucker there right now. But this hurts me because of everybody else. If she is lying about this like she has lied about everything else in her entire fucking life.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that it needs to be resolved. And especially, I mean, it's an issue now, so it's out. There goes my phone. It's like 11:30. Why are people still texting me? But it's out now. Like, people are talking about it. Like, it didn't get talked about on the media, but people are talking about this, and you see it on Twitter. There's a divide going on right now, and they're trying to force Bernie Sanders supporters into voting for Joe Biden. They're giving all of these numbers, like in 2016, 12% of Bernie Sanders voters voted for Donald Trump. Well, yeah, but in 2008, 24% of Hillary voters didn't vote for Barack Obama and voted for McCain. Like, they don't talk about that. There's this concerted effort to force Bernie Sanders people to vote for Biden. And so I think that they're not trying to talk about these accusations, but everybody's talking about them, and it's actually making it worse because Bernie Sanders supporters are saying, hey, hell no, there's these accusations. And then people that want to support Biden now because they're staunchly against Trump are just dismissing the accusations, and nobody's talking about them. And now we've got a serious fucking issue. And I'm going to just put it out there for the Biden supporters. You guys, this was your guy. You said that this guy could bring in those moderates, those moderate Republicans. He's going to have to do that. Do not fucking blame Bernie supporters for not voting for this man. Accusations aside, don't blame Bernie supporters for that. That's their right as an American. And if they don't feel like they can vote for Biden because they don't want to vote for that machine, don't make them feel like shit for that. Biden said he could pull those moderates. It's time for him to fucking do it. He said that he's got this. He can win. It's time for him to do it. I'm not going to be your scapegoat, and none of us are. But that has nothing to do with the allegations. I went on a rant.
No, it's your channel, man. I should say, again, apologize for my roommate. I should say, if I have at all made it seem as though I am, and this is anybody that's going to watch this, made it seem as though I am defending Joe Biden or even attempting to walk a line or fall over into trying to defend rape.
Yeah, I'm voting for the dude. I'm in Michigan. I made that decision today. It's important. I will disagree with Shay that this is an important election, and when you talk about the Supreme Court and the damage that's going to be done if they get this extreme Supreme Court, I mean, that's just undeniable. There's going to be the damage that's already been done is undeniable. You give them another justice or two, we're fucked. So I mean, this is a vital election. Doesn't take away from these accusations. Need to know about them. I would like to know about them before the convention so we can actually have fucking choice of not having that.
Yeah, but I apologize if I made it seem as though I was attacking anybody with this.
Well, I think that you think it's important, right? Like you don't, like you want the truth out there. And that's how you came to me. And I think that you've brought it. You have serious questions here. And it's not anything you did. This is all shit that she wrote. So the questions are of her own doing. So, I mean, I try to be fair and I try to be honest and I try to look at things open-mindedly as much as I can. Sometimes I fail. I stated my position. I still want to believe her. I still want this to be investigated, but I'm not going to sit here and say you didn't make me think about some things and make me want to look at it farther. But I would hope beyond hope that it's not just me doing it, but investigators and journalists doing it, because we need to get to the bottom of this. It's tearing us apart. People are talking about this shit, and we need the information. We need to know the truth here as much as we can know it.
Yeah. It doesn't help me that in an article she wrote last year, she said that she didn't even consider it sexual. Like what he did to her, she didn't consider it sexual. I don't understand how somebody can say that if they have said that a person, and I'm sorry I have to say this, if they can say that a person forcibly forced what she said in March. I
can. I think that people don't want to be a victim. People can easily gloss over events, not think about them, black them out.
I'm sorry for the way that.
So yeah, I do think that there is justification for it. Like I said, I've researched this a lot. I've known people that will sit there and say that their husband is the greatest ever, or gloss over things. So there's this perception that everything's fine. I'm not justifying lying in any means. I'm just talking to that specific instance.
No, you're right, and I apologize for what I said there and for what it made me sound like I was saying. There absolutely is justification for that. It's simply.
No, I think we've been going for a while, Nathan. I would have had this conversation with anybody else. I had this conversation with you because I respect you and I know that you're a good man and you're not coming up from a place of venom. I think we should both process the discussion and think about it. We can continue talking as long as you want. I'm not rushing to bed. It's late, but it's I'm still I'm feeling pretty good. I think you made really good points, and that we need to know the information, right? And that this is a very important election. This election is very important. I'm not trying to say that Donald Trump is the worst thing that's ever happened, because I don't know. Andrew Jackson to me is still the worst president in the history of the fucking country, but Donald Trump's close. And that Supreme Court is vital. Republicans vote for the Supreme Court. It's time for Democrats to do the same. I think whether or not our party remains what it is after this election is up for debate now, because even without these accusations, you have a very serious split between the left and the moderate factions of the party. And it's come to a head, and I don't see resolution. I see determination to beat Trump now. Hopefully we'll do that. But like Ali pointed out, at this point, I'm voting for Biden's administration, not Biden. I have no confidence in the man. I don't think you have very much confidence in him either. So I think, like, again, we agree on 99.9%. You have good reasons to think these things, and you've presented that. I've got to personally just process it, I think, because it's been so much information. That Russia moment, though, like, holy shit, I just remember, like, fuck, god damn it, Nathan. When we hit that part, it hit me pretty hard. So yeah.
When there's motive, it exists, and there's, I don't know. But all these links to everything that we've found, and there's more. There's actually a lot more that we didn't get into.
Yeah, we'll put those links in. I'll make sure Ali makes sure I do it, but we'll also put in links for resources for abuse victims.
Yes.
And that type of information as well.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the most important things there. Sorry, the highlighting thing is just something that I do without thinking. And yes, absolutely. And if you are going through that or have gone through that, there are resources out there. You're not alone. and people can help you. I promise. And that you are strong enough, and I know that you are, because my experiences don't necessarily matter overall, but if you've been through this, the knock, thanks for putting those things in the description and stuff. I don't know that I am happy that we had this conversation. I
think it's definitely one of the more emotionally draining conversations I've had in a while.
Yeah.
It's hard to think about it, and to have an honest conversation about this it's a very hard thing to do, especially in the political climate we're in. I think that we did that. I think we had an honest conversation. We had our back and forth, and yeah, I mean, me and Allie were back and forth on this stream, and I think eventually you got to talk about it. You got to talk about those hard conversations, and that's why I named it the hard conversation. Because I think we both knew it was going to be hard. We were able to get to a place to where we agreed that we could do this, and I think we did stay by our rules. And I want to thank you for coming here and bringing it to me, because I put it out there. I put that stream out there to where I played Tara's accusations. So, we needed to have this talk, I think. I don't think you're a bad person. I wouldn't want anybody to think that you're coming from any kind of negative slant. You're not. You have information, and truth is important. And it shouldn't just be, oh, well, Biden did it or Biden didn't. It's nuanced, and we need the information. And hopefully the investigators will take this seriously, and we'll get it.
I agree. And I thank you for having the conversation with me. And I don't know. I hope that that the proper resolution is found, whatever it is. And we have a lot to do. So yeah. I need to go and talk to my girlfriend now, because if I don't, I'm gonna break down. So
yeah, go take care of yourself, Nathan. Thank you for coming on. The next time it'll be a much more pleasant conversation. We'll laugh at Christians together,
Not at Christians.
I kid the Christians.
I know. Just make it come in here and take that out of context. Not at Christians, but rather the claims of religions, and especially with with creationism and things like that. So
yeah, we'll have fun next time.
Yeah.
But thank you for coming on, man. I'm glad we had this conversation. I am. It was a hard one. It's a tough one. And yeah. Go take care of yourself, and I'll see you very soon. I'm sure I will.
Yeah, very good. All right, thanks, man.
All right, man. Oop.
Stop spilling your stuff.
All right, so yeah, I'm gonna get out of here too, guys. Long stream, long night. Tomorrow, as you can see it scrolling on the bottom, we got Apostate Alliance, 3 Eastern. That'll be John and Faye with special guest Saf. So I'm really excited about that. Thank you guys for being here for this very hard conversation. I think both me and Nathaniel would tell you that believing accusers is the most important thing. You should have very serious evidence to present, and I think Nathaniel did. I think that we don't get that from the other side when they're trying to dismiss their candidates. I think that the left does hold our candidates to a much higher standard, and we got to continue that here, even in the face of one of the most important elections in 2020 or in the history of this country. This election right here is important, and we can't lose our integrity in that. And I'm not saying that Nathan did. He presented really good evidence. I'm saying that we need to investigate everything. What what Nathan presented, and if she is putting out false accusations against Joe Biden, we need to know that. And we need to have a definitive answer, and it shouldn't just be pushed under the rug. They should do their due diligence, and I hope that they do. I don't think that they will. I think me and Nathan disagree on that. I don't think that they will. I think that they don't want to hurt Joe Biden, and unfortunately, as I said, we are talking about it, and Donald Trump's going to use it. He's going to throw the kitchen sink at Joe Biden. So it's not going to go away. We'll see how this turns out. I want to thank you guys for joining me. Be the conversation. This one was a hard one, emotionally draining. I'm going to relax and go to bed and try to process this. And I want to thank Nathaniel for trusting me. You know, he's a friend, and I wanted to make sure it wasn't going to be me yelling at a friend on this stream. And we didn't. And we had a civil conversation about a very hard issue. So thank you, and I'll see you soon.